to Homo Politicals. You're live on Enterprise TV. Kingsley Bass is my name. And yes, once again, let's cut through the noise, bring you sharp analysis, bold perspectives, and the truth behind the headlines. Well, today, would proceed with a very, very interesting conversation. Kingsley Bass is my name. Welcome to the show. And on the show today, we'll make a stop in Kogi State, where something exciting is happening right there. Well, on Monday, 31st March 2025, the Kogi State Police Command called on Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to cancel a planned Salah rally in the state's central senatorial district, citing the state government's recent ban on political gatherings. And yes, the Kogi State Commissioner of Police, Mila Dantawai, issued the directive in a statement released for that purpose. And the statement emphasized that the rally contradicts the state's ban on rallies and processions, which was announced on Monday due to security concerns. And the police command warned too that any attempt to defy the order could lead to legal action, saying the police would not hesitate to take measures against anyone causing a disturbance. Well, despite that ban, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, I need to remind you, she's been suspended for 6 months. Well, it's some 1 month into that suspension now. She has not just insisted, but arrived the ground for the rally to a massive welcome. And I dare say massive welcome, considering the fact that just days ago, as a matter of fact, 1 week ago, there was a petition submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission. And the petitioners did say they got the signatures of some 250,000 residents, constituents of the Kogi Central Senatorial District. Well, considering that figure, the number of persons who stepped out to welcome Natasha, that too is massive. Let's very quickly take a listen to Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, that homecoming, that rally, and then we'll continue the conversation with my guest, who you'd meet in just a moment. So stay tuned. The next clip you see is that of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.
That's all. Respect me from calling you.
The clip from that rally trending, happening, and that's quite an interesting one, because you'd imagine that for some reason this rally would not have happened, or some level of disruption or something would happen. But she there in that clip did say that nobody could stop her from returning home. She mentioned too that she is an Ibira woman and that nothing could stop her. All right, let me introduce you to my guest now. I'm joined virtually by a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, one who knows his onion, permit me to say. I'm talking about Maduka Onwukeme. Maduka, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me get your thoughts on what's happening in Kogi State. First, before we get to break things down even further, because first, the ban, as well as the directive by the police, many have said, borders on fundamental human rights. But before we get to the legal side, what's your thought on what you've seen play out today? The arrival of the suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and the welcome she has gotten. What does that tell you?
Well, at least now you know the reason why Senator Natasha seems to be having problem. She's very deeply popular, and I also believe that might be the source of her confidence, which has been unwavering. She's very popular back home, from what I can see, not just today, but even other days. If you recall, Senator Natasha won her elections at the tribunal, and despite her opponent being declared the winner, if you recall what also happened before the election, you had Governor Yabelo go to destroy roads and dig ditches. It was that, he was that desperate to stop her. So I'm not very surprised, by the rousing welcome she has received. Obviously, she's popular, she's a home girl, coming back to her top, and even her confidence to insist on coming back, despite all the threats to her. It shows you that she's very confident about her home support. And it also puts a light to the story about her being recalled, because you can see the number that gathered, that the crowd, they defied an illegal pronouncement of a ban, which I will still come to, as to even the legality of somebody sitting down to say he's the governor, he's the commissioner of police, and he's hereby banning people moving or somebody coming into his state. I'll still address that.
Interesting perspective there. We'll get to that legal side in just a moment, but talking still about the gathering there and the support that she has gotten, even the comments that she made, very daring comment. She did mention first that nothing could stop her, nobody could do that, and she did say too, that there's going to be violence. She did mention that the former governor of the state should be held responsible. She said she's not breaking the law, being back home and those. Let's go on a short break. When we get back from this break, you heard some more from my guest, the legal practitioner who joins me virtually today to talk about this. Still stay tuned.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
For staying there, we're talking the arrival of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, despite the ban by the state government, the Kogi state government, not to have a rally, not to have any public gathering. And of course, the directive given by the Kogi State Police Command as well. She has arrived, and she has been speaking with her supporters. I've got, joining me virtually, barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, that's Maduka Onwukeme. Thank you again for being there. Let's talk about the legal implications of what we've seen so far. First, it was, about some fishing crisis, and then the state government comes, says, oh, there should be no gatherings, political, whether it is social, no public gatherings. They placed a ban on that, and I suppose that's because she had notified her people, her supporters, that she was coming home. What do you say about that? Does that infringe on the fundamental right of residents in the states to gather? And some persons have said too that, oh well, this is the state government speaking, and they have intelligence, they can declare, make such declarations to say that to maintain peace in order in the state, nobody should gather. What do you say?
Well, I think it's a dangerous precedent taken too far. I recall back then, in the early days of our democracy, what you had even state governors do was, because they had sanitation laws, bylaws or local government laws or state laws to say there was monthly sanitation or weekly sanitation on Saturdays. So you could have them, force people who have fixed events for those days, they disrupt it on the basis that it is sanitation day, because there is an existing law actually. But you see, sometime, I think in the past, the court knocks down those laws and say they were unconstitutional. You cannot, because of sanitation, make a law and say people should be restricted from moving. So we are talking about a law now. Now, this is when you compare it to a governor making a pronouncement. A governor's office is a creation of law. The governor of Kogi State didn't just become Kogi State governor because he was born to become governor. He had to go through some process. He ran for elections, he was declared winner, he was sworn in, and the rest of that. And even he can't say, the women in Kogi State must wear red, and he signs it, it becomes law. Laws are made through a process, you know. Executive orders are limited in certain ways. They are not laws. Executive orders, they refer to policies you make. But when the governor comes and says, not even he himself, it was even his secretary that was, the press secretary or the commissioner for information I saw that made that release.
The commissioner for information. But he must have been doing that, must have done that on behalf of the state government. It is illegal.
It is illegal. The governor himself cannot make such a pronouncement. And then it is also very laughable when you hear the police say they are making that they are restricting movement. It's very illegal, very unconstitutional. No commissioner of police has the right, because we see this even play out the local government elections or state elections, state by or law elections. You see the commissioner of police will say that they are restricting movement because elections are ongoing. You don't do that. If there are going to be any restriction of movement, it should be pursuant to a law. Because even what the Constitution says about about movement and restriction of fundamental rights, it said pursuant to a law. There could be restrictions, for the good and order of the society. So if the Electoral Act says that during elections, movement should be restricted in those areas from this period to this period, then pursuant to that law, the Commissioner of Police can say we will be enforcing so and so sections of the law against this. You don't just come out and make a that you had the you had the intelligence report. It is illegal, not just illegal. It's signs of dictatorship, and it makes a mess of the democratic system or the tenets of democracy, which we say we want to profess. I mean, can you hear in any country, any same country, where they tell you that people cannot gather because they had a security report or something? The security will allow people gather.
Maduka, the state police command, the Kogi State Police Command is quoted to have said that they would take legal steps against those who might go against the directive not to gather.
That's what I'm telling you. That they have no powers to even make that directive. It is an illegal directive. The Constitution allows me freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, and the rest of that. So even except the police cannot say I cannot gather. We are good and fine. The laws are against affray. You have affray or riots, violent riots and the rest of that. But you should allow my gathering first, because it's my right to gather. When I now gather, then if I start a riot, that's when you now say you want to stop the riot. But you can't say I shouldn't gather because you fear it will turn to a riot. I don't know whether you understand me.
That's gotten, but again, this would be counter, or rather, this would be countered, or there's a logic. There might be logics, some logic to counter this, and that is the fact that if it's the job of the police, if it's the job of government to ensure security and welfare of its citizens, and they say they've gotten intelligence that there could be breakdown of law and order, and they say, okay, for that not to happen, don't do this, don't do that. Isn't
okay,
that...
Mr. Kingsley, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If the government gets intelligence, for example, that schools are going to be bombed, that schools are, and that children going to school might be at risk,
yes,
or that markets in Kogi State face attacks,
yes,
or that all the civil service, the public service, buildings are likely going to face attacks. Will the government close down all these places for as long as this threat remains, crippling the state's, governance, crippling the educational system, crippling, say, even health services, until this threat is neutralized? Or will the government, what is the job of the police? If you say, the Constitution says it's the right of people to gather, to assemble. So if there's a threat to their well-being, what you should do as the police is to deploy policemen to protect their right, that when they gather, that the miscreants or the thugs or criminals you said will likely attack them, that those people are not allowed to attack them. That should be your job as the police, not to tell people not to exercise their rights. Especially when you've not made a law to that effect. You are that the law, even the powers of the governors to impose a curfew in a state when there is a crisis is made pursuant to a law. There is a law that says that in time of crisis, you know, a governor can impose a curfew and say people should not move here by this time or by this time. So
right.
it's not, I can't just wake up, because this is not an absolute monarchy where the king can wake up from the right side of his bed and decide, oh, I close down here, or wake up from the left and decide I open here. We have a constitutional democracy where whatever you do is the powers are given to you by the Constitution and other laws made pursuant to the Constitution. So you don't just stand up and say you want to do this, you want to do that.
Okay, so as we begin, we need to, close in just a few minutes. As we do that, what does this say about the process? Going back to the very beginning, the process now, which was initiated some 1 week ago by some members of her constituency saying they want her recalled. That process has started. The Independent National Electoral Commission, I suppose they're in the process of verifying those signatures. But what does this say? The support she has gotten, the overwhelming number of persons who have stepped out of their homes and comfort to welcome her and scream. And if you've seen those videos, they've been screaming her name and supporting her. What do you think this says politically? And what sort of signals do you think this would give to had, if you like, permit me to say, opponents?
Well, obviously, you heard what INEC said in respect of the signatures. In that petition to recall Senator Natasha. Of course, they said the document, they couldn't act on the document because of some discrepancies, in terms of names of the constituents who signed, their phone numbers, their details like the addresses were missing, and the rest of that.
Oh well,
and there are videos that
they've now submitted, to the Electoral Commission their email addresses, their contact addresses. I'm talking phone numbers.
No, yeah, I was coming to that, but the earlier process, and even the time frame for them to have gathered the number of signatures, it shows you that the whole thing looks state managed. Because of the time frame, I was coming to that, and then after this complaint was made, you saw also this rush and this drive to, for them to make the changes and get this human record. But the one step, there's only one step of this recall process is about submitting petitions. There's also like, I call it a by-election, it's so-called, where people are, or I'll call it a referendum, where people are asked to vote whether the person should be recalled or not.
Yeah.
I remember INEC even complained that process is even more expensive than an actual election to elect somebody. So that is the first step. Senator Natasha faced the same process and it failed and all. So the issue now is, from what we see on ground, I think Natasha is ready for whatever battle is coming. She has the supporters on the ground. I mean, she has been through this process. She won on the field. She was not declared winner. She went to the tribunal. She won, and she is at the Senate. So if this comes on, I think this should even be a clear message to those who want to recall her that they may face yet another disgrace. So if they want to go ahead with it, ultimately the power to recall Natasha will lie in the hands of our constituents. So let's see how that goes. We'll see who is more popular. Nigerians will see who is more popular.
Indeed, we'll see how things go. But the most important part is that the good people of Kogi Central Senatorial District, the good people there should be safe. Whether they choose to support their daughter, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, through this period, or they choose to do otherwise, they must be safe and must be kept safe, and that's the most important part in this conversation. And people must, go about, have the freedom to go about, their legitimate businesses. Well, that's
not just safety and that. I think the will of the people should ultimately be allowed to prevail here. Let the people say they want to recall this lady, or they want to put, because this rumor is that they want to send Yaya Bello back to the Senate. So let the people ultimately decide.
That rumor is quite rife, but we'll see how things go. Thanks to you for joining me today and for sharing your thoughts on this conversation. Maduka Onwukeme, barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kinsley. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate that. Well, that's the conversation today on Homo Politicus. Let's talk in the comment section what you think, how you feel about this, and the support that is visible received by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan while she's still, observing her suspension by the Senate. Well, we'll keep the conversation going in the comment section. I'll be reading, I'll be watching as well. Let's get talking there. It's been Homo Politicus on Enterprise Television. Never stop watching. Kingsley Bass is my name. Until next time, be safe and God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Political on Enterprise Television. Kingsley Bass is my name. Many thanks for joining me today. Let's discuss one of the most pressing matters shaping a society as we speak. And today we discuss a proposed peaceful protest organized by a group of youths in Rivers State, South Nigeria, called Take It Back Movement, Rivers State Chapter. They've notified the police of a protest scheduled for Monday, April 7, 2025. And this protest, the organizers say, seeks to challenge government policies, including the repeal of the Cybersecurity Act, rising insecurity in the state, and economic hardship as well. Now, what does this mean for democracy? What does this mean for governance and the rule of law? That's why we're jumping on this conversation today. Again, welcome, Kingsley Bassis. My name. I'm joined today virtually by the Publicity Secretary of the Take It Back Movement, Rivers State, Andy Akpoti-Uduaghan. Many thanks for joining me today. How you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm good. Good afternoon.
Yeah, many thanks for making time to be part of the conversation. We do know that as it stands rather now, as we speak, Rivers State seems to be in a very delicate political situation. Since the president declared the state of emergency there in Rivers State, Tuesday, March 18, 2025, it's been very delicate. And, following that declaration, the president suspended the governor for 6 months alongside lawmakers in the state, as well as the deputy governor, and he appointed the sole administrator, retired Vice Admiral Iborete Ibas, who has since started, his job as the administrator. And so I say this just to remind those who have been following the polity. And yeah, very delicate indeed what's happening in Rivers State. And now you, alongside your comrades, permit me to call you that, want to protest in a very delicate situation. That we know is your right to do, but how critical is this protest? Some would say it's not the time to do that. What do you say?
I say, when else is the time? When is the time for us to start building a nation? When can be a better time for us to start digging the foundation for the sustenance of what is real democracy and for what will sustain our children even yet unborn? When is the best time for us to start plowing the field and sowing the seed? When is the best time for us to start planting the trees? There's no better time than now, because it feels as though there is palpable injustice in the land, from the length and breadth, if you considered it from the north to the south to the east and the west, particularly in Rivers State. It is loud, it is palpable, it is visible. It can be felt by everyone and seen even by the blind that injustice runs on the streets of Port Harcourt, Rivers State, and Nigeria. And there's no better time than now for us to address it.
So what then is the purpose of this protest? Is this to protest the declaration of March 18, 2025 by the president and the installation of the sole administrator in the state? What's this about?
The thing is, it's been sent to you already, right? So we have stated a lot of things that the protest is intended to achieve.
Yeah.
If you looked at the letter that was sent to you and to the press, you would have seen that our particular interest as a movement is that we want to look at the issues around, the Cybercrime Act, right? The repeal of the Cybercrime Act, rising insecurity in the state, and economic hardship. These are the three, pillars upon which the protest is going to be standing. Economic hardship, you could see that, and I've been speaking to you from the very first day when they removed subsidy. You can see that the economy is not improving. Anybody who says to you that it's improving, the person is at best being, not, and I was very economical with the truth. Yes, that's a better way to put it, because the words that are, or the sentences that are coming to my mind are not exactly very, very interesting. But let's say economical with the truth. You would have seen that indeed what we have at the Cybercrime Act is one that is not speaking to what is democracy. Go see how democracy is practiced everywhere else in the world, where even the Prime Minister of Britain can be confronted by a citizen and asked why he or she would do what he or she would do. You would dare not speak to anybody in authority in our country, whether it's anyone who is heading any of the agencies, even pastors these days. If you spoke against them, they came at you. They ensured that you were imprisoned. Is this the kind of country that we want to bequeath to our children? If you submitted yourself to holding public office, you must understand that you must be big-hearted enough to allow the populace to criticize you. If you didn't want criticism, then by all means, just stay to your private business. Even Dangote is criticized, and Dangote is not in business, not in public business. Even Dangote, who is in private, is criticized. How much more of a person who has taken to issues as addressing the public? So for us, it is clear, it is overwhelmingly clear that we are going to be registering our dissent, registering our, our opinion, against the economic hardship, against the Cybercrime Act, against insecurity, particularly as it pertains to concerns the entire state. You'd have seen what happened in Edo State, what happened in Plateau State, what's happening across the country.
What's the insecurity challenge in Rivers State you particularly want to protest against?
The insecurity challenge in Rivers State, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, so we have got a state of emergency declared already in Rivers State, right? So we would say that the state of emergency is one that is expected to tackle. The sole administrator had said that he was coming to enforce, law and order in our state, as though there was no law and order in Rivers State. I had said that the word that should have been used should have been restore law and order, not enforce law and order, right? It should have been to enforce law and order, not to restore law and order, as though there was no law and order in the state before his emergence. The truth of the matter is that Rivers people, indigenous citizens and residents alike, I've never seen a thing like this before. It's strange to us how that in a democracy, you would have a sole administrator that is presiding over the affairs of the state and is going on, dissolving boards, ministries, agencies, and parastatals. You're wondering, is that part of your charge? Are you saying all the heads of ministries, parastatals, and agencies stands dissolved? What's the intendment for that? There are loads of stuff happening that challenges the security and the peace of our country.
All right.
We do not understand why we are doing these things, but in the coming days, we are going to know. And the intention of this protest is for us to register some of these grievances and say to them that as a people, we are very aware of our rights. And we know that this is pure infringement of our rights. And we are only going to appeal to the government that they should have a second thought. The people may not have been able to organize themselves now, but the time will come when the wishes of the people will be so strong, will be so loud, that even the wishes of the establishment may not be able to stand against it.
All righty then. I need to go to break now. I've been speaking with the Publicity Secretary, Take It Back Movement, Rivers State Chapter, and Akpoti-Uduaghan, who joins me from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, where the scheduled protest for Monday, April 7, 2025 would happen. I go on this break now. When I get back, I'll be joined by another guest as we break things down even further. And Akpoti-Uduaghan, please stay there. Do not stray a breath. We'll be back in a moment.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
We're talking about the proposed protest in Rivers State, Port Harcourt precisely, by a group of youth who have put themselves together to protest rising insecurity and a few other issues around economic hardship. As a matter of fact, they're protesting they want a repeal of the Cyber Crime Act in Nigeria. They want that legislation repealed. Well, if you've been part of the program from the very start, you've heard from the publicity secretary of the group putting that protest together. They're called the Take It Back Movement, Rivers State chapter. And I've been speaking with Andy Akpoti-Uduaghan, the publicity secretary. Andy, thank you so much for staying there.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Yes, I'm joined at this time too by a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Evans Ufeli. Many thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for making time from Rabbi's temple to be here. Yeah. Appreciate that. Well, Andy, let me come to you real quick before I get to Evans Ufeli, who's live in the studio with me. Well, you have now notified the police of your intention to protest, right? I'll come to Evans Ufeli in just a bit to talk about that. But do you think that peaceful protests, which is your intention, still hold power in influencing government policies in Nigeria?
Absolutely, absolutely. You do not build a house just by building a house. You have got to put brick on brick. You have got to put mortar on mortar. You have got to put sand on sand. Building a house takes a process, and this is what is what speaks to every other thing on earth, right? The tree doesn't just become a tree. It starts from being a seed. What we have failed to do before now is that we do not register our anguish. We do not register our disaffection enough as a people against the government. Even from the days of the military, you would have seen that what took the military out of government, for instance, was the fact that there were a few people, and I'm sorry to say that we have lost that generation, and the people we have today, if you will permit my use of the word, they have become not as, there's a word that's come to my mind, but I don't know whether it's appropriate for radio or TV. If you say I should use it, I will use it. We have become too ballsless as compared to the people of yesterday, the likes of the Chima Ubani, the likes of the Bekoram Sopukuti, the likes of the Ganifa Emi, people who stood and, planted trees whose shades they knew that they were not going to live under. Today, for pecuniary gains, for economic advantages, for political leanings, you will hear certain things from youth that would almost make you feel like puking. We are not able to come together and say, for this reason, we have come together against the government. The government, they are afraid of the people. The voice of the people is the voice of God. As many people as we come together, particularly in this protest, it's not just take it back. We have been able to galvanize several other groups, including civil society organizations. The Niger Delta Congress is a part of us. Several other groupings have joined us to say, we are going to hit the streets and we'll make it really very loud, abundantly clear that the people of Rivers State have had it. And we won't have it.
Let me turn to Evans Ufeli. Evans, your primary constituency would be the law.
Yeah.
They have notified the police, and you'd hear several times in this country in recent past where many persons would say, oh, the polity is delicate. Things are very delicate, especially in Rivers State as we speak.
Yeah.
And they want to protest in Port Harcourt, the capital, where it is, so to say, a hotbed right now.
Yeah.
And they've gone to the police to notify the police. Was that necessary? What does the law say about that? Do they need the permission of the police, of authorities to get this done?
Well, going to the police to make their intentions known to the police and overkill, they need not do that. But having done that is still fine. But if you look at the case of the All People's Congress,
I suppose you
versus
mean All Nigeria People's
All
Party.
Nigerian People's Party
Yes.
versus Inspector General of Police.
Yes.
In that case, the court gave a ruling clear that Section 39 of the Constitution is sufficient, okay, to the effect that people have a right to assemble. So what they are doing is a fundamental right. They are just trying to exercise their fundamental right of assembly.
Even when the polity is delicate.
The polity need no. What is delicate about the polity?
Well, the suspension of the governor.
It doesn't matter. The Constitution didn't say because a governor has been suspended. I mean, the Constitution never even contemplated a suspension of a governor. So that suspension is illegal. So it does not even have anything to do with what is about. The suffering and untold hardship in the country is sufficient for peaceful assemblies and peaceful protests. And that's exactly what they are doing. And I'm so happy they are doing that in the state of my birth. I was born in Port Harcourt in the 80s, okay? Rumasi to be precise, Air Force Base, where my dad has served as an Air Force officer, okay? And my mother is from Opobo. So each time I talk about the US, it's like, I mean, I've been granting interview all the way from the US, Atlanta, and I just came in today. And I'm hearing that there's going to be a protest. I wish I could join them in that protest in River State, okay, to, also vent and exercise my right to peaceful assembly. It is important. The protest should go beyond just the rising cost of living or food and the rest of that, or the hardship in the country. The protest, in my estimation, should also address the illegal suspension of the governor of the state, because the people's mandate have been supplanted by some administrator who does not know what is due, who does not know what is, and who took an oath under no law known to the country. Okay, so I think the protest should be directed to extend to that those issues have to be addressed alongside every other issue that is, ravaging the country, as it were.
And very quickly, yeah.
Yes, if you may, I just want to jump in on that. Okay. I am particularly very disappointed, at a few institutions in this country, particularly the NBA. It seems as though it's only the chairman or the president of the NBA that is speaking. The days and times when I was born in this country, government feared NBA, government feared TUC.
But the president is speaking for the association.
No, I'm coming. Body, yes? I'm coming. We are yet to have the MB of River State even speak to these issues. We are yet to, in the days when I was born, in the days when I was, growing up in this country, we knew what the power of MBA, was in this country. We have had an illegality, by my estimation, and I think by my brother in the studio's estimation, an illegality in government. And governance is going on as usual. In the days when I was born, lawyers will not permit this perfidy. Lawyers will not permit this treachery. Lawyers will not permit this preposterous condition. They would have all come on the street if it meant that they would galvanize the rest of the civil society and everybody to say this cannot hold. Like my brother in the studio had just said, what constitution gave him the gusto, give him the favor, give him the power, the authority to be able to, the temerity, if you may, to be able to do some of the things that he's doing. And this is first off an infringement on the law of the country. And who are the people who call themselves people who are something about temple? I don't know how they put it, the watchers of the temple. People who are supposed to be that.
Temple of Justice?
Yeah. Yes, people who operate within the temple of justice. They are carrying on as though there is, and I've been saying it on radio in River State. I said, my biggest disappointment is the NBA. Because if I were leading the NBA in River State, nobody will practice for these 60 days or for these 6 months. Nobody will practice. We all will be on the street every other day to say, we cannot allow illegality in our state and in our country. Kudos to the NBA president. But for him, I just think that, a lot needs to come from, the NBA national and the NBA in the state. Well, I can take your question now.
I was going to pose this question to you, but considering what you've just said, I changed my mind. I'll say that to Ivan Zufeli, and then I'll come back to you on that. They have just submitted a notification to the police to say we're going to protest, and that's like some 1 week before the protest. Are you do you have doubts about the possibility of this protest holding, considering the amount of time given? Because we've seen over time where even a two-day notification becomes a window for possible scuttling the process.
Yeah. I know. We know. Whilst we were before the show, I did talk about that the window given for me, if I were to be among the organizers, I would have suggested they have very short time, because you see, each time you give windows like this, politicians go to recruit counter protesters. Okay, you know, there are a lot of people still support this government, as bad as things are. All you need to do is to give them gratification, give them 1,000, 2,000 naira. And we saw it in Lagos State during the NSAS protest. There were people who came to counter the protests. They were with cutlass, and some of them were dropped by SUVs bearing government numbers. You understand? So, and the last one, we had a 10 days notice that was given for Lagos State in August last year. You saw how, you know, the security agencies went to reinforce, and before the protest commenced, they had already intercepted the whole thing. So for me, I would have, because protests should be spontaneous as much as possible. It should be organic. It shouldn't be too planned, over-planned. I mean, it gives the adverse party a room to begin to look at ways of sabotaging the effort of the larger society. But it's still fine and good. They've informed them. It's already set for that day. There's also a sense in which an overwhelming power of protest can subdue every dissent against good. Because, I mean, nobody will tell me that this country is in a good place. Nobody. They say we want to deceive ourselves.
Some will say that we're developing, we're getting there.
No, we're not getting anywhere. We're not getting anywhere because...
Are we not making progress in any way?
No, we are not. What progress are we making? No, in what area are we making progress? I just want to find out. Because is it infrastructural development? Is it cost of living? Is it education?
The president celebrated just on weekend the other day, by the way, former governor of Rivers State, of doing enough projects to make the capital city a worthy place to visit.
No. That's not, see. Which project did we do in Abuja? I stay partly in Abuja to, road construction. Not even construction, renovation. Renovations here and there. And then some patches here and there. So that is a sufficient infrastructure. That's what government refers to as infrastructure. I mean, we are not making progress, and we have to say it. And our worst problem so far is that we have a National Assembly that is subservient to the executive. That is our worst problem. Okay, because if the National Assembly did not even, one of the major reasons for the for issues lately is if the concurrence of the National Assembly was sought and declined in this state of emergency, it wouldn't have been productive.
Maybe it's a fine opportunity to get your thoughts on how the process, how that happened. There was the use of a voice vote rather than the 2/3 counting process as would be expected. Are you comfortable with that? Do you think
because the Constitution says 2/3 majority.
Yes.
2/3 majority cannot be ascertained by voice vote. It couldn't have been possible to do that.
Not even through the register. They have the register, they have a quorum, and then the number of, you could say that a larger number of the building, of the house, did say yes to that.
No, that's not sufficient. You couldn't have used voice to track number, because if the Constitution said 2/3 majority, 2/3 means the Constitution envisaged counting. 2/3 majority would be like if you divide them by 3, 2 sides of it. So that 2 sides of it will be a particular number. It can't just be voice. So I mean, that is what it is. So what I'm trying to head at is, since this interview is not about the what do you call it, the state of emergency, I want to stay away from it as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I keep going there because it's part of the problem we're having. Okay, Nigeria is not making progress. That's the truth. If we're making progress, we will know where we're making progress. Okay. We say by cost of living is a country that is making progress anywhere in the world will start from the citizen. Cost of living. The citizens must be able to testify as witnesses of good governance. You understand? So if the citizens have not testified as witnesses of good governance, whatever you call progress that you are making is just known to you.
But the problem with that thought, though, would be that a section of these same citizens you talk about praise the government and say that we're making progress.
The government recruits a lot of them online to do that. There are so many of them who are online to deflect every criticism. Okay. There are those who are just outrightly and stupendously stupid to praise the government against their will. Okay, you know, like one of the scientists said that two things, you know, are permanent in the world. Okay, life, that's living, and stupidity. Okay, some people are sufficiently stupid to say that against their wish, against exactly what is going on. Some are recruited to do that. Some do that because they have some contracts or some gratifications coming from. Some youths are being serviced. Okay, they are being given little money to do things and all that. And during the election, they use them to perpetrate crime and all that. So it's a handful of it that says that. I mean, the general public, we cannot endorse what is not right.
As we begin to draw the curtains, Akpoti-Uduaghan, you, the part of the team organizing this protest, as a matter of fact, to put it straight, you're the publicity secretary. And so, you've given the police enough notice. What happens if the police say, oh, for security reasons, you cannot proceed with this protest? Oh, we have intelligence that this would be, hijacked, which is the regular language, hijacked by thugs, by hoodlums and the rest. What happens? What would you do?
Okay, so I have been involved in literally all the protests that have taken place in Rivers State, from the NSAS, End Bad Governance, and all of that. The last that we did with End Bad Governance, we gave them notice. When they came at us, I recall that I had even spoken to you about it. They had sent a few people, they mobilized against us. And they came with sticks, cutlasses, and everything at us. And I gave a press interview even to Arise, where I said that the government has procured the oppressed to oppress the oppressed. And it's such a very unfortunate situation where the oppressor is procuring the oppressed to oppress the oppressed. We are aware that these will be some of the shenanigans, that would be displayed by them. But it's not what we are going to speak to on air. We have got our strategies around what we are going to do. There are specific goals for every protest, specific objectives to every protest, and we would ensure that those objectives and those goals are achieved at the end of the day. There are other things that we can do. Recall that we had even begun to collaborate with a few of the organizations in Rivers State against, the sole administrator and the illegality of the sole administrator by our reckoning. And the NDC president, Nubari Sattar, was arrested, was picked up, for over 36 hours. He was picked up by the Rivers State Police Command, and the Ogboru, the publicity secretary of NDC, was also sent several letters. We know these are the antics. But you see, what we are aware of is that evil would only continue to triumph where good men refuse to do what they should do. I had stated very vehemently in my last intervention here that I thought that, and I've been saying it, the clergy and the what do you call the lawyers now? If you call the church the clergy, those who wear the robe, the lawyers, they have disappointed me the most. Imagine if registrars wanted to protest against what has just happened in Rivers State. Imagine if lawyers says they are not going to take any brief, they are not going to go to court for the next 6 months. There are different ways you can protest. I've been emphasizing it in Rivers State to say that the reason evil continues to thrive in our country is because good men refuse to do anything. Right. Good men are afraid of coming and standing. Go look at the world all over. Moses was able to stand the Egyptian. He understood what he understood. He knew that if he did not stand, the rest were not going to stand behind him. Who is the one person who is ready to stand in spite and regardless of what may want to come against him? Who is that one person? Who is the Chima Ubani of our time today? Who is the Bekor and some Kuti of our time? who is the Ganifa me, my mentor of our time? Who are the people today who would say that it's posterity that matters the most and not prosperity?
All right.
You know, we concentrate and emphasize prosperity over posterity. Meanwhile, posterity fades, but posterity remains. That's why we still remember the likes of Awolowo decades after. We still remember the likes of Azikiwe decades after. But the people who yesterday were billionaires, how many of you recognize them? People who actually went and sold their consciences, who worked against the people. How many of you remember them? Who are the people today? Where are the lawyers? Where are the clergies? Where are the Bekor and some Kutis? Where are the Ganifa and me? It's indeed a travesty what we have found ourselves. You know, the wife of the man, the Afenifere man that I loved so much, the public secretary, I think, who had passed, said that a people who fail to organize will continuously agonize. And the reason Nigerians are agonizing, and we've not seen anything, if we do not stand against this, it's going to go around everybody. It's coming to Lagos. It's going to Bayelsa. It's coming to Calabar. It's going to Delta State. It's going to go around until we stand against tyranny, until we stand against dictatorship, until we insist that democracy and everything that is a pillar for democracy, until we insist that they must stand. It is only but a matter of time until Asha's song will catch up on us. The river would overflow and there will be nowhere for us to go. And we would run, wishing we had put out the fire.
All right. Well, hopefully not. We don't get to that situation. But yeah, I suppose you were trying to reference Udumaki, the former Afenifere leader who's passed now, and you were trying to reference his wife. Well, very, very quickly, just as we close, final thought from you, Ivan Sufeli. He's mentioned where the lawyers. You're a lawyer. You're seated right in front of me. Maybe you want to very quickly respond to that. While you do that as well, considering the history of protests in Nigeria and the way authorities have handled this, how, speaking to them, would you demand that they handle this protest, especially, again, emphasis on Port Harcourt, Rivers State at this time? It's barely weeks after the president, suspended the governor, and so a lot of persons still looking here and there as to what could happen. That's that. And how best do you think this should be handled? And do you have the confidence that they would want to, at least at this time, for the sake of peace, handle things properly?
That is the protesters.
Yes. No, the authorities now handle things properly.
Yeah, I think the authorities here were referring to the federal government. First of all, they should go and undo that state of emergency. And then they should go back to the issue of cost of living and go and address this inflation that is ongoing. Not all the states are paying the minimum wage as we speak, even after you have
the federal government just started paying core members.
Core members. That's after an outburst where a copper. So that is why we should be encouraged. Okay, if that guy had not spoken, perhaps the coppers would still be earning 30, whatever thousand they are earning. And I think that the authorities need to do something very fast, because you see, this implosion that is coming, it's one that will overtake everybody. It will overrun the government, and the government will not be able to recover. The resources to deploy to quell this imminent danger is there. Imagine that the government had this 77,000 naira all the while and refused to implement the youth call allowance. They had this money all the while. They have the wherewithal all the while to take care of this issue that is ongoing, where the cost of living has reached a crescendo. All the while they had the resources, but they are waiting for an implosion. Okay, resources that they need to deploy to make life good for the people, they have it, but they are waiting for the brink of implosion before they act. My advice to the government is, if they do not want the government of Bola Tinubu to go to evaporate and be referenced in history as a government that came up with cluelessness, tactlessness, and lack of vision, they should listen to the people. There's no reason to have a government when the people are not. Legitimacy, the Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people, to which government derive its legitimacy. and that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So security and welfare, you are not doing anything about it. Rather, you are even creating more insecurity in the land using extra constitutional means, using means that is not in the constitution to define the state of things. That's my advice. And for the issue of the lawyers, yes, lawyers have been laid back lately as against the past, okay? But it's important for us to know that when it comes to agitation and protest, you don't even need lawyers. As much as they are claimed to know the law and they have considerable knowledge of the law, issue of protest and agitation cut across. In fact, some of the names he mentioned are people that were not lawyers. Apart from Ganifa and me and maybe a few other lawyers. Pesora Sonkuti was never a lawyer. And the other one. Okay, so let us all be encouraged to the point where we put a pressure on government, be a lawyer or not. Whether you're a lawyer or a lawyer, whatsoever it is you are a citizen. And the right to protest is bestowed upon you as a citizen, not as a professional. So let's go out there, let's support this protest, let's mobilize, let's stop agonizing, let's ensure that we widen our moral margin and demand what is right for this country.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Barrister and Solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Ivan Sufedi. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
And the Publicity Secretary of the Take It Back Movement, River State Chapter, and Akpoti-Uduaghan, many thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We do hope really that this protest will be peaceful and that you can go about that, enforcing, permit me to say, your constitutional rights to protest against what you so wish.
Even you people as journalists, you people are part of the confusion. Protest naturally is peaceful. When we say we hope that the protest is peaceful, if it was not going to be peaceful, we will say it's an insurrection. We will call it order. By the very definition of the word protest, it implies that it is going to be peaceful.
Oh,
you know?
I'm sure, and Akpoti-Uduaghan, you know what I mean when I say peaceful protest, because we've seen what's happened in recent times, and I quoted that or referenced that a while back to say we've heard things like, oh, this protest will be hijacked by hoodlums, so let that not happen, and the rest. And so again, we just leave things.
Reason we have given them a letter. Let them prevent the hijacking of the protest. It's their duty as police officers. Right. Let them prevent the hijacking of it so that it can be indeed a protest. If they refuse to prevent it, then it should be their own problem. Thank you for
being on the program. This is Homo Politicus. Many thanks for joining the conversation today. Would be in the comment section. Let's know what you have to say about this. And indeed, if you're in Rivers State, Port Harcourt precisely, in other parts of Rivers where this protest will be happening, if you would be joining, let's know in the comment section and how you feel about this too. Kingsley Bass is my name. Until next time on Homo Politicus, make sure you're safe and bye for now.